Hello and welcome to the Confidence Garden. I'm Jules Wyman, and yet again I'm going live, and I know it's going to take a few minutes for people to realise, so I'm just going to do a little bit of preamble ramble beforehand, which for those of you watching on the recording might be a little bit like, why does she do this waffle at the beginning? As you can see today from the location, I am not in the office again. How dare she? She's escaped. And I am out and about. I'm actually in the beautiful countryside in the UK again. I'm in an area called the Cotswolds, which is stunning, and been driving around this morning and looking at the time, realised that we were going to need to stop and find somewhere so that I could do this broadcast. And this was the best place that we could find that had the least noise and the best signal. So fingers crossed the signal is going to hold out, and fingers crossed that you will be able to join me live as we deep dive again into, well, this is day 6 of the 7 keys of confidence, and therefore it is key 6. And it's also looking at lock 6, because as I've said all week, and with all of the ones that I've broadcast this week, it's really about, it's not just about having a key to set you free and break free. It's actually about you understanding what keeps you locked in, and especially where confidence is concerned. There is this kind of this forced thing of thinking that we need to just do one thing to get ourselves sorted, and that we'll get the breakthrough, and we'll have uber confidence, and everything will be okay, and we'll never have to deal with it again. And I personally don't believe that's true, because I believe there are so many layers with confidence. There are so many different aspects that we need to look at. It's a huge topic and covers everything from resilience to assertiveness to resourcefulness to self-belief, self-worth, how much you value yourself, your self-perception. There's so many different layers and aspects to it. So it's not a quick fix, and I don't expect these keys to be an immediate quick fix. I would love it if they were, and I can't remember which day it was that I said that if I had a magic wand and I could just say, right, tell me what it is that you want with your confidence, and ping, there you go. I'd love to be able to do that, but that's just not viable. It's not truthful, and it's not authentic. And whilst things like faking it till you make it and acting as if can be really helpful and resourceful to get you going, they're also not they're not sustainable over a long period of time, and actually can do you a great harm with regards to your confidence, because actually it could be hindering that. That feeds into the imposter syndrome, and it's kind of like looking for a confidence boost. It's like a rocket boost. It's going to get you off the ground. It's going to get the rocket off the ground, but you need the right fuel to keep going and keep you sustained. That's one of the things of what I'll be doing in the full day of the truth about confidence. And you can go to thetruthaboutconfidence.com to look at the what that day entails, and obviously book your ticket. Now, for those of you who are able to come on live, do remember to say hi and drop in and like and love and whatever, and let me know who's here so I can say hi, and that'd be fantastic. And I know it's a Saturday here, and it's a Saturday pretty much everywhere still in the world, I think. So some people may prefer to be watching this later on in the evening because they'll be with family and things, so I appreciate that. But I thought it was just perfect to keep the 7 keys over the 7 days so that we've got them done and dusted, and you've got a resource there that you can go back to. It's going to be staying on the Facebook page, so you just scroll through the timeline, and that you can then look at all of those different things and keep you going. So with all of that being said, what is lock 6? Because that's where excuse me, that's where we've been going with. That's what we've been looking at throughout the whole of this week when we've gone through the 7 keys, is looking at what is it that keeps you going, that keeps you blocked, keeps you from experiencing what you really need, that's going to support your confidence so that you can feel even more comfortable in your own skin. You can feel even more resourceful, strong, secure, powerful, whatever the right word is for you. And lock 6, and it hasn't been lost on me today, the relevance of me listening to what this lock is. And it's something that I have been aware of and worked on for a vast majority of my life. And in the last few years, when I recognised the impact that it has on confidence, even more specifically, I've been looking at it to become clear around it. And the thing that keeps us locked down, and we risk being locked down and kind of trapped really, is, bizarrely enough, is impatience. Now, where impatience is concerned, and it's kind of like the opposite end of procrastination, which was one of the locks that I spoke about the other day. And procrastination is where we consciously or unconsciously are putting things off. And impatience can also work in the same way, of where we're getting frustrated with how things are, or upset, or looking to control things as they are and wanting things to happen a lot quicker. And I know that this is something that I have a challenge with, because I can be and do impatient behaviour. I recognise that. And I know that that impatient behaviour can then mean that my frustration builds up, which means I can become tense within my body, which means I can become tense within my thinking, which means that things just start to shut down and lock off. And that means that it's kind of like, I'm sure you will have heard the phrase, even if you don't experience it, it's kind of like that red mist stuff. It's not just necessarily about anger, but it's kind of like the only viewpoint we have comes from that filter through that lack of impatience. And that also links to one of the other locks that I was talking about yesterday. I think it was yesterday, is around self-criticism and self-abuse, and how we constantly, unconsciously, a lot of the time, tell ourselves that what we're doing isn't good enough, or it needs to be different, or it needs to be better, or it needs to be improved, or it's not right and therefore it must be wrong, or it's not of value rather. It's not significant, it's of no importance, etc., etc., has no meaning, has no purpose. And so therefore we criticize ourselves about that. And again, using that framework that I was using yesterday, of we look at where we are now. I haven't got both hands free today because the other one's holding the tripod. But we look at where we are now versus where we want to be, and we make the gap between those two things wrong. And that's just not helpful. So whoever the first viewer is, do drop in and say hi so I can give you a name shout. And those two things, when we create that, when we make that the way that it is, so we've got that first thing and that second thing, when we create that gap. Now, some people might say that you can use that gap to help get you motivated, to help inspire you. But actually what goes on unconsciously a lot of the time is that we make where we are, that point of where we are, point A, we make that wrong. And rather than using it as an inspiration to get to point B, we use it as a chastisement to get to point B. And then we have these timelines and expectations. And again, I was talking yesterday about perfection and standards. That we say, well, it shouldn't be how it is right now. It should be this way by now. And it needs to have been like that by now. And it just hasn't, and it isn't. And it's that constant striving for things to be different is where we can end up unsettling ourselves, creating that internal discomfort, creating that insecurity, and it's not helping us in any way, shape or form. And I remember quite a few years ago now, one of the teachers I was learning from at the time said, one of his phrases, Brendan Burchard, was, "Did you know that there's magic in patience?" And I thought, that's really interesting. And I've turned that into a question that I use for myself, is what if there really is magic in patience? And that's your key. Interestingly enough, if the lock is impatience, then the key is patience. Now, the challenge with that, which can also link back into the standards and expectations that we were talking about yesterday, is it can trigger a lot of need for control. What I want to control, I want to try and control how I want things to be. And if I have patience, then that means I'm kind of shrugging my shoulders and going, oh, well, it's just where it is. I'm not doing anything then. Don't have to do anything. And in actual fact, it's more about taking that step back and going, okay, what can I do? Am I doing everything I can to make this thing, or to create this thing the way that I want it to be? So whether it's getting a new job, or applying for a job, or sorting things out in a project you're working on, or your health or your finances, or whatever it may be, when you first of all take some deep breaths and check in with yourself, am I honestly, truthfully doing everything that I can to make sure that this thing is going in the direction that I want it to? If your answer is yes, and then I know that I hear yes, but it's not going fast enough, and this is probably, out of all of the keys and locks, this is probably my biggest challenge, which is why one of those things of, we teach the very thing that we need to learn. And what I have recognized is that I have to reassure myself, I have to remind myself that if I'm doing all I can, then I just need to chill. If there is nothing else within my control, there's nothing else even within my influence, then I just need to chill. And I recognise that for those of us who have a control addiction, which a lot of people say that you're a control freak, but I don't personally believe in that phrase. I feel that we just get more, this mind, our thinking mind, gets addicted to control. And actually it's about letting go and recognising that we can have that calmness, that when we've given ourselves that honour, that recognition that, do you know what, I've done everything I can. I truthfully have done all that I can to take this in the direction that I want it to be. Then I just need to wait. Check in, even if I need to check in every hour, or even if I need to check in every day. What is going on for me is that impatience. And another teacher that I adore and study quite a lot of his work is a gentleman called Adyashanti. And one of my favourite quotes of Adyashanti is, a sure way to suffer is to argue with what is. And to me, that is a reminder, and it's one of the reasons I think the quote resonates with me, is because it's a great reminder for me that when I feel probably always actually, when I'm feeling that level of discomfort, when I'm feeling that level of frustration, suffering in that context, it's because I'm arguing with what is. I'm not being appreciative and looking at genuinely what is. And a lot of the time it's because we don't like what is and we'd rather have it different. And I had an interesting conversation with a client this week around what's going on in the world, and from his perspective he was saying, but it all seems so crazy, not only what's going on in the UK, but what's happened in America this week and what's happening in various places around the world. It just seems crazy, and I seem so ridiculous, and it shouldn't be this way. We should all be getting on, and things need to be different, and if only we found another way to actually get on and understand each other, that it would turn things around. It would make things very different. And whilst I agree with the sentiment and the statement and even his intent behind all of that, actually we have to acknowledge that things are messy at this moment in time. And is there anything I can do? And if so, get on and do it. If there is anything that I can't do, if there are things that I can't do, then whilst I may wish I had that magic wand, I don't. So there's nothing I can do to make it any different from how it is. So either I can just keep churning it over in my head and get internally upset and frustrated, which then in a bigger context of looking at the world, it's probably gonna make me feel uncomfortable. But if it's something that, so say for example you've got to do a presentation, and I know speaking in public, even if it's to your team or a small group. Some people find a small group easy. Some people find a large group easy. It's one of the common discussions that we have. I have when I do my presentation skills training day. And it's interesting that for some people, they find 4 people is perfect. That's exactly comfortable for them. And for somebody else, 4 people is too much. That's classed as a big group. So it's different for different people. But if we take that scenario of I really wish I didn't have to do this public speaking, or I really wish that I was getting it right, or I wish I knew why can't I just get it all right? Why can't I be perfect by now? And actually, that recognition, that impatience of how things are, is going to be internally bringing us up statements which aren't going to be helpful. It goes back to that self-abuse again, and it's not going to help us feel comfortable and calm with where we're at that moment in time. So your lock that you need to be really aware of is that impatience and how that impacts on you. And the key that's going to turn things around for you is patience, ironically enough. And I do love using the question around what if there is magic in patience. And as much as I say, this is the biggest learning one for me, and with the kind of morning I've had so far, it's a perfect time to be reminding myself of this. And one of the things that I want to make clear to people who watch me as a speaker, who watch me as a coach, those that come on the Truth About Confidence a day, people who work with me one-to-one, delegates, whatever it may be, is it's important for them to understand that this is a journey for me as well. I'm not professing to have it all sorted. I'm not professing that excuse me, things happen, life happens, and that's important for you to know, because I think that as a coach, some people assume that life doesn't happen and that I must have it sorted and go through with everything being a breeze, and actually that's not truthful. What's more truthful is recognizing that I'm on an evolution path as well. I have things to learn, I'm looking to grow, and all I'm looking to do and want to do ultimately is make this job redundant, because people will be believing in themselves and having confidence within themselves. And I want to always make sure that I am being truthful with you and with myself, so that I can give you what you need to help you go from wherever you are now with your confidence to a new place. And a little bit like with the key of kindness, the art of patience is also something that needs to be cultivated. It needs to be practiced. It needs to be recognized when it's not there and honored. And again, don't give yourself a hard time if you notice that you are being impatient. Just recognize that that's what's going on and do what you can from that place there. So if you want the 7 Keys of Confidence and haven't got the whole webinar for free, you can go to juleswyman.com. I will put the link below again for you. And if you want to know, and you can just go onto the web page, there are loads of other videos and things on the blog page on there. And you can get the 7 Keys of Confidence downloaded there just by putting in your name and email, and it comes whizzing along to your inbox pretty much straight away. And that's all for free. And if you would like to know about the one day, the truthaboutconfidence.com is where you can find the full information, and also you can find how to book, obviously. Now, please do remember that these videos are here for you to share. They're here as a resource for you to go back to. They're here for you. The reason I recommend that you sharing them is because we all have somebody in our lives that we know that if only they had more confidence, if only they had more patience, that life could be different for them. It could be easier for them in a far more resourceful way. And that's why I wanted to do these videos, go in a little bit more depth with things, so that you can share them with those, and whether that be work colleagues, business colleagues, whether that be friends, family members, whether it's peers, whether it's something you want to put on your own Facebook page, then that's what they're here for. So please do look at how you can share them. And if, when we come to the end tomorrow of the 7 Keys of Confidence and this particular video series, then If you've got other questions that you would like answered, then please do direct message me and let me know what they are, because I would happily do a video, or we can have a look at what it is that you need and can guide you to some resources where that's concerned. And that's what I want to do, is be a resource for you to help you take your confidence from wherever it is now to the next level, whatever that may be for you. So I hope you found today useful. It's been an interesting location to broadcast from, and I look forward to speaking to you tomorrow for the final 7 keys of confidence. So have a fantastic rest of Saturday, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.